Hiroto, a very bland and mediocre student, enrolls in Academy Island, where students battle in games to win stars, hoping to earn the prestigious title, 7-star. His fateful encounter with Sarasa, last year's champion, leads to a brawl, and he defeats her with sheer luck. Now, the plot-armored kid must continue to use deceit to rise to the top. The world is made up of a ranking system. A young man named Shinohara Hiroto sets out on a journey to Aimei Academy on an island. He appears to be the academy representative, despite being a transfer student. While he was addressing the students, he declared a challenge to all students as the new 7 stars, that he will be willing to accept any challenge from anybody. And he doesn't care who the other student is. He plans to reign over them for the next 2 years, which all seems to be a lie. Hiroto walks out of the hall and starts behaving like a scaredy cat after acting all and mighty like he was him. He brings out his phone and starts getting loads of demeaning messages. He falls on the ground and wails like a dog. A broadcast message commences by welcoming the students and informing them that the student life in the academy is supported by the latest technology provided by Japan's leading company, the Saionji Corporation. It was also broadcasted to the students that their rank would be decided by the number of stars they collected through games. Hiroto can be seen crying like a newborn baby and rumbling about his not wanting to become a 7-star and getting lost. A beautiful red-headed girl with ruby eyes walks toward Hiroto, getting him struck with her beauty. Hiroto becomes perplexed, but immediately gets himself back, telling her he is lost and wants directions to Aimei Academy. The red-headed girl tells him the academy is in District 4, and he was in District 3. She shows him the map on his device, and tells him how essential the device is on the island, stating the map isn't only useful for map, but for sending messages on an app called Stock, and how to send game requests to take people's stars. He smells her hair, and gives an elated face. The red-headed girl told him not to be too formal, since they were both in the same age group, and were in their 2nd year. She offers to take him to the big plaza in school, since he doesn't know his way around. They walked in step while the red-haired asked him if he was a transfer student since he got here yesterday. He agreed, telling her he needed to attend the orientation ceremony. Then the red-headed girl suddenly remembers that she is having her orientation that same afternoon. She gets drenched with water as soon as she turns back after saying her goodbyes to him. She suddenly became gloomy, asking Hiroto if it was a coincidence, or did he plan it out? Hiroto replies saying it was obviously a coincidence. She cuts him off saying he doesn't look surprised, and the situation was strange, judging from the fact he can't use the device that everyone could, and him wandering in District 3, despite the plaza being in District 4, saying he was probably leading her on trying to embarrass her, then take advantage of her. Hiroto, with a silly face, points to the underwear of her upper chest sticking out because of the water splashed on her clothes and body. She gets angry and demands a game with him. Hiroto agrees, but only if she listens to what he wants to say if he wins the match. The red-headed girl tells him to hurry up and send the game request, saying the request can only be sent by the lower-ranked player, and the rules of the game can be decided by the ranked player, making the game fair, since the ranking person choosing the game won't make the fight fair. The red-headed girl gets angry, asking why he sent her a blank request, and if he is messing with her, she decides to set the game herself to a turn-based staring contest on hard mode, where if you show any emotion, it will be picked up by the sensor flying above them. The red-headed girl goes on to explain to Hiroto that the game will be taking place in turns, where he can make any sort of funny expressions to shake up her emotions, and they trade places after a minute. Hiroto tells her to go on with the game, but she gets confused, asking why he didn't set an ability, whereas he doesn't even know what an ability is. He tells her he will be fine, but she misunderstands him, thinking he was saying he doesn't need an ability to defeat her. She demands to start the game, saying she will let Hiroto regret looking down on her. The game commences and starts with Hiroto's turn. The red-headed girl uses her ability Numerical Adjustments and places it to level 7, restricting the other player's turn to 1/10 of the time limit. Hiroto panicked, saying it wasn't fair, but she replies to him saying it was a basic ability, and he was the one who decided not to use an ability. Hiroto gets into the red-headed girl's turn. She immediately activates Creation EX, and a sword appears. Hiroto panicked, asking what that was, but she asked him if he was not going to run away, and charged at him and started attacking him, trying to make the sensor detect any sort of emotion from him. Hiroto was wondering why people were gathering and dodging the red-headed girl's swings of her sword. The red-headed girl was happy that her clothes got dry, saying she could go to the orientation now. But something unexpected happened. Another water dispenser suddenly popped out, shooting another gush of water on her while she was attacking Hiroto. She was embarrassed, and the sensor detected that, making her lose the game while having her star ownership transferred to Hiroto. The people who gathered were wondering how Sayonji Sarasa, who we refer to as the red-headed girl, lost. An old man who appears to be a butler walks up to him and tells him the headmistress wishes to see him. At the headmistress's office, the headmistress stresses over the mess created by Hiroto while holding a teacup. Hiroto asks her if it was about the game and says games are normal in the school. She replies to him saying games are of course normal, but he is different, and he broke an important rule by reviewing what happened with Sarasa earlier, making it sound a lot worse than it is, saying harassment is the problem there and playing games with other students is normal. But it was a problem because of who he played with. The headmistress started reciting Sarasa's stats and perks, saying how she achieved the highest score in the entrance exam. She enrolled at the top, being the only 7-star on the island, and having a winning streak of not losing any game since she enrolled. Not until she met our black-headed main character who showed who is who. The headmistress further explains that the charming girl he met is the Empress Sayonji Sarasa, the granddaughter of the current head director of the Academy Island, Sayonji Masamune, and the family is the founder of the Academy Island. She is VIP among VIPs, saying that is who an unimportant, insignificant, irrelevant, small fry guy who had the lowest transfer score ever and barely scraped in with refreshingly low trivial, non-essential, low status. A commoner, a fodder guy, and a non-important NPC like him dominated in a game. Bro is a waste, also telling him how strict and merciless Sayonji Masamune is, and how scary he can be when he gets angry. Hiroto gets scared and acts like a low-level character, asking if he will be expelled. The headmistress tells him if expulsion is enough, he would be long gone from the school, and that Sayonji Masamune would do anything to protect his family name away from pests and corruptible existence like Hiroto. But the headmistress tells Hiroto there is a way to save him by making him a 7-star Sayonji. Masamune can only get angry because a commoner like Hiroto defeated his granddaughter, but wouldn't be a problem if someone of the same level did, and he can only be at her level by becoming a 7-star. Hiroto panics like a weakling, saying he is just a 1-star and could never make 7 stars, even if it kills him, because he is such an unimportant little twerp, and tells him he is lucky, asking him to check his device, since he won a game against the Empress, asking him to look at the color of his stars he won from her. Hiroto saw a red star and asks if stars aren't supposed to be white, but the headmistress replies to him saying that it is not a normal star, and only 10 to 15 special stars like that one have been confirmed on the island, saying the red star has a special effect, letting one tell a lie about anything, calling it the red unique star, and asking him to use the lie to buff the data that says he is a 1-star and he can become a 7-star. Hiroto asks if that was possible, but the headmistress says it is, because not many people are aware of its effect since it was in the possession of the Sayonji family before Sarasa held it. Hiroto asks her how she knows of that, and she tells him she was a previous holder of the red star, and asks Hiroto to become a fake 7-star, saying a transfer student gets record-breaking test scores, surpassing even the Empress, and a new genius appears making it to 7 stars on his very first day, also saying he won't be forced to accept the plan, and he should pack up his things and leave the island today if he was not willing to, also asking if he has any important goal. Hiroto replies saying he has a goal. He has someone he has to find and can't let things end here. The headmistress tells him if he gives up now, he won't be able to find the person he is looking for. Hiroto asks if he was set up and if she predicted all of this, but she replies saying she is very cunning and can take advantage of any situation. Hiroto agrees and picks up the teacup, then chugs down the tea and asks if all he has to do is become the strongest player. Hiroto is seen wailing on the ground staring at his device while the headmistress laughs at him, calling him the best, saying he can separate his inner feelings and outward expression, and saying she was happy scouting into the academy. Hiroto tells her it is enough and asks her where he will be living. From now on, the headmistress tells him she arranged a dorm for him and will send the coordinates to his device, saying she looks forward to his next performance, as long as he doesn't mind getting humiliated. Hiroto is at the crossroad mumbling when he is suddenly pulled by someone, and alas, it is Sarasa, our cute red-headed girl. She pushes against the wall in a narrow place, saying he gave a wonderful speech at the ceremony, saying it was all over stock and asking what he was after, and asking if he was trying to use her weakness to crush her, and even gaining attention by absolutely crushing her and begging him to spare her, and saying she has her reasons, even if she is behaving selfishly, saying she will do anything. Hiroto tells her he has no idea what she is talking about, but she tells him to stop joking around and be serious, and ask him to stop acting like he doesn't know she is not Sayonji Sarasa, and she has been acting as her double at the academy for the last year, and she is Akabane Rina, and she has been winning games, knowing if she loses once her secret will get out, saying lost the red star to him after losing, so he must know the truth. Hiroto asks if the game carries such a penalty, but she says, if you can tell any lie as the owner of a red star, the next person to get it can find out what the lie was, and he must know that since he is the red star owner now. Hiroto tells her, until she tells him now, he didn't know about her lie until she told him, and he just came to the island yesterday, and can't use the device, right? And this is the first time he hears the red star has any disadvantage. Rina, who is faking as Sarasa, finds it hard to believe, and asks if he didn't defeat her and became a 7-star, but Hiroto tells her that was the lie he made up with the red star effect, and he is a 1-star, and he only has the red star he took from her, saying he is the lowest rank, and also having his reasons to lie about his stars. Rina is surprised, and asks if he wasn't the strongest in the academy, and if he only won by accident. Hiroto admits to making her so troubled that she brought herself down. Hiroto ponders that since Rina wasn't the real Sarasa then, Sayonji Masamune wouldn't come after her, so he had no reason to become a 7-star. Hiroto gets to the dorm and is baffled. He opens the door mumbling. A cute white-headed girl in a maid outfit welcomes him, calling him master. Hiroto is starstruck by her cuteness. Hiroto and the maid stare at each other, looking dumbfounded. The maid shyly conceals herself behind the pillar and asks Hiroto for his name. Hiroto answered her, saying he was Shinohara Hiroto. She gently calls out his name, Shinohara-sama, and walks towards him, asking for forgiveness for trying to hide from her new master. Hiroto admired her beauty, and she introduced herself as Himeji, and that she is enrolled in District 3's Uka Academy, and is his live-in assistant on behalf of headmistress Ichinose Hiroto. Asked her what she meant by a live-in assistant, and she explained that she would be living and sleeping in the house to aid him in any way possible. She says she and Hiroto will get along since they both have a weird relationship with the headmistress. He then asked her to sit down, but she played hard to get, but later agreed. She asked Hiroto if he was hungry and prepared a huge feast for him. Upon seeing it, he asked her if he was supposed to eat all this by himself, so he asked that she join him. As expected, she objects, but with all that riz, the dude persuades her in no time. After trying the food, he praises her for her cooking skills. Himeji tells Hiroto that he is quite open-minded, although she heard he was skilled at hiding his true feelings. Hiroto tells her he feels safe around her since she seems like a good person, and he is blunt because of that. She asks him which food he does not like, but her useless master, who doesn't have taste, says anything will do. After a while, Himeji explains the security issue to Hiroto and tells him to be very careful to prevent unauthorized access and measures against spies. Due to him lying his way into success, he needs to be very watchful. Himeji says on the Academy Island, aside from District 0, each district has one academy in it, meaning there are 20 academies on the island, and there is a ranking system in the academy where Uka Academy and Tenenzaka Academy get ranked 1st and 2nd every year, and can enjoy many benefits if they are ranked high. The students with 5 or more stars are generally considered to be advanced, and the more advanced students in an academy determine the rank of the academy. If it has a 7-star, it will almost certainly end up top, and students tend to target a 7-star, and he will get more requests to play games. This wouldn't have been an issue if he had the real strength of a 7-star, since there are advantages to winning games, but he is pathetically weak and had a depressing score in the transfer exam. Himeji tells him that she and the company will try their very best to cover up his lie and assist him in winning games, bro is just being carried. War a lame-ass guy. Himeji then asks him to check his game request, and he already has 42 game requests. She asks him to select one at the bottom and choose his first battle, which will happen in the morning the next day. The liar needs an impact, since some people will doubt him, so he has to find a way to prove himself. Snow White reassures him that they'll cheat their way to victory. Instead of the downright loser trying to prove himself, he removes all forms of dignity and proceeds with her plan. The company's head of electronics, Kagaya, introduces herself through an earbud given to him by Himeji. This bitch immediately crosses her boundary when addressing the loser. Himeji explains that Kagaya will hack into Hiroto's opponent's device and control it to their advantage. Hiroto says even if this is a scam, he is going to make it work because of his goals. The following day, Hiroto wins his second match and walks naturally like he is all that. Upon getting to the alley, the loser rejoices and thanks Himeji for helping him win, before heading to the campus. At the campus, the class held a tournament about who would show Arata around, and two people won, namely Tatara Fuka Class 2, A's class president, and Tsuji Yuki. Hiroto asked why games were being pushed in the academy, and he was informed that it was because Aimei Academy has ranked in the top 5 for the last few years and is competitive. Himeji called him, saying he received a very favorable game from a girl called Murasaki Haru, a third-year student from District 11. A second-year student at Uka Academy, Kazami Suzuran, from the official academy group Libra, sounded like a cat and was in a cat cosplay. She is cute though. She then opened up the main event. Himeji explains who Libra is and their duty as a media organization that manages the news app LNN and streaming video app iTube, also arranging games for large events. The first challenger is introduced as Urasaka Haru, ranked 3 stars, and then she introduces Hiroto as a blood-soaked overlord who's rocked Academy Island like an earthquake by being the fastest to reach 7 stars. Hi readers, it's a big lie. Bro can't even blow a wind to turn off a candle, not to talk of causing an earthquake. This is a scam. The anime is a big lie. He walks up to the stage, acting prideful, and declares his win before it even starts. A special guest was introduced, Sayonji Sarasa. Urasaka was allowed to choose the game rule, and she picks the Anything Goes 100M race, where any transportation method is allowed. Urasaka brings out her secret weapon, which appears to be a performance-boosting ability. Hiroto stood tall and proud, trying to go off against her on a bike. Himeji explains Urasaka's ability to Hiroto, creating a plan to win against her. Urasaka tells Hiroto that she has the Nullify Interference ability, and could nullify any interference since she thinks Hiroto picked the Obstructive ability in all 3 slots and tells him they are all useless. The Sturm und Drang game starts and Urasaka zooms off on her bike, then suddenly stops and flips over. Hiroto walks effortlessly on the track and boasts that a 7-star like him will see through her abilities. He acts all and mighty even though he is weak as hell. And being carried, Himeji explains how the bike stopped, that a level 7 ability called Completely Disable was used, and it can work on Nullify Interference ability. Although Kagaya hacking was the main reason the bike stopped, Hiroto walks past her like a king while leaving her paralyzed with her safety device through hacking. Hiroto won and left the stage. Then Rina, who we all know as Fake Sarasa, walked up to him, saying it was bad. He wasn't humiliated, and she was happy he won, and that the person he was going to end up losing to is her. Hiroto tells Himeji that she shouldn't listen through the earbuds, and that he wants to have something private. Surprisingly, he went to have coffee with Rina. He asked her what it is about being a double for the real Sarasa, and she agreed to tell him, and ask him to keep the secret between them. Rina explains that the real Sarasa was kidnapped over a year ago, before she entered Uka Academy, that she was in Sarasa's friend group, and that children of Sayonji aren't allowed outside until they are in high school, and she was chosen to be her friend since she was a fantastic girl, and the kidnappers who kidnapped Sarasa didn't ask for anything but just kept her hostage, so nobody knows her real face, so it was easy for her family to replace someone with her, and she doesn't know when she will come back. And until that day, she has to protect Sayonji Sarasa's reputation until she comes back, and she needs Hiroto's help, so he must not lose, or her lies will be exposed. And if people find out she is not the Sayonji princess, then the headmistress will stop protecting Hiroto. Hiroto tells her he will try his best to win all, so he can keep staying on his island, and find his friend, since he is sure she is on the island. Rina says he should keep on winning, and their lies will be protected. They created an alliance they didn't name, but I think I should help them name it. I think it should be called a liar alliance, since they are both scams. They exchanged IDs to keep in contact, and Hiroto found out his name was trending. They agree to get along, and Hiroto heads home and is welcomed by his pretty maid Himeji. Not gonna lie, I'd die happy if I had a maid like Himeji. On his way to school, he is blocked by Rina, who asks him why he didn't text her all night. A weird man in glasses and capes, acting like some sort of superhero, looking like low-budget Batman or broke Tony Stark, stands on a pillar grinning at them. A sus-looking student jumps down from a building, interrupting Rina and Hiroto. Without wasting time, he introduces himself as Kugasaki Seiran and vows to defeat Hiroto for making Rina lose. Hiroto agrees with him, but places a condition, one which involves the loser not being able to challenge Rina. The otaku-looking clown gets mad at him for tainting his goddess, but Hiroto continues to taunt him. Another time, he and Rina meet while putting on disguises. She then asks him to follow her to have a strategic meeting. Hiroto takes her to his home, and she reacts to seeing Himeji. The confused teen wonders if his maid knows who Rina is, and she affirms knowing her secret. Himeji then takes them into a room in the mansion and talks about the game Kugasaki wants to use. She explains that no single one-star individual has ever won against him. She then explains that Kugasaki has a lot of members in his alliance and can use them in the upcoming battle in case of emergency. Rina points out that Kugasaki has never used the ability since he gained another one called Black Wings. Rina advises him on tricks he can use with a 5-star ability since he is a 7-star person, but he decides to ask Himeji for a 1-star ability that can be useful. In return, she says that he can use the display bug, an ability that glitches the opponent's screen. She also advised the use of luck adjustment to help increase his chances of picking higher card numbers. The loser suggests something while looking sleek, but his maid turns it down. He then decides that he'll be using his suggestion and the 2 options she gave him. After their meeting, Rina heads home, and Hiroto notices something odd about her. He asks his maid if she's been avoiding her, but the maid says it's the other way around. While watching her disappear into the sunset, Himeji suspects that Rina is hiding something from her and Sarasa's family. She asks Hiroto to protect her friend. The day of the showdown between Hiroto and Kugasaki arrives. As Hiroto deploys his abilities and starts looking for cards, Kugasaki picks a card with a low number. Himeji then informs Hiroto that Kugasaki must have realized the device bug skill that Hiroto used. To their surprise, Kugasaki starts collecting almost all the cards in the vicinity. Hiroto begins to wonder if his opponent has already used the Explore skill to find their locations. The clown of an opponent uses his ability to communicate with Hiroto. He advised the poor scammer to give up, but the will of a main character is always unbending. Hiroto ends up running for a while to get the card number 14. As he chases for another higher value card, he sees his senpai with a superbike, and she carries him to his destination. The dolt thanks her and enters the building where it's at. Upon seeing the card far away, he struggles to get it, but ends up falling like Humpty Dumpty. The people watching the battle note that Hiroto hasn't collected cards in a while, unlike Kugasaki. Moments later, the loser wakes up with a broken arm, but can't find the comm device that he uses to interact with Himeji. To his surprise, Rina sees him in the building. She then advises him that he should go and be treated, but being a main character with unwavering will, Hiroto says some cool lines that can have girls of my age wanting to get married to him. She then confesses to him that all that talk of Sarasa being kidnapped was a lie, and that she simply is on the mainland, trying to enjoy a normal high school life. After realizing that she is a good girl for not dragging Himeji into her mess, he calls her his type and says they should keep up their act for a while longer. Immediately, Himeji walks in on them, and he asks her for the game's status. She tells him that Kugasaki has collected 16 cards, while he has only 2. She believes the game to be over, but her master and best friend don't agree with her. Due to their coping, she decides to join them. Kugasaki then confirms the existence of an ability that breaks rules. He then asks her to help her update the effect of his device bug ability. After the collection phase, the 2 contenders are to reveal their cards. Kugasaki begins to mouth off his victory, but Hiroto stalls for time. Hiroto starts by submitting his card number 14. Immediately, Kugasaki laughs him off for losing and drops all his cards, unknown to him that Hiroto has changed the rules of the game. Kugasaki begins to call his opponent a vile scum after wondering what move Hiroto will pull out of his ass. Immediately, the rule that he thought Hiroto changed reverts to the former. This makes Hiroto win due to still having a card left. Bro got tricked like Dio did to Joseph in JoJo's. The crowd goes wild and Himeji quickly goes to support her injured master, congratulating him. After a while, Hiroto is in a university hospital around the area. Rina visits him and acts like a bitch while hiding her true intentions. When she finally asks him why he is outside his hospital room, the loser acts cool like his wound is all healed. She gets pissed at him due to not listening to her when she wanted to know what he meant, as at the time he told her that she is his type. As she grabs the loser like he owes her money, she tells him that she's glad his lie worked out. The retard in return tells her that what he went through earlier didn't put him in a tight spot. As he walks back to the hospital room, she smiles at him and calls him a big fat liar. Himeji meets with the principal and calls her a sly fox. While the hag addresses her, she asks Himeji the number of stars Hiroto has. Himeji concludes it to be 1. Since he already has 7, the principal corrects her. She informs the ignorant white witch that her master has 2 stars. Confused, the principal explains to her that Hiroto gained an extra in his battle against Kugasaki. Hiroto at first had a special star after defeating Sarasa, and now he has gotten another one from Kugasaki. She believes that he might be able to gather all the 7-star colors. Isn't that a sign of the Rainbow Coalition? As she spoke, Himeji asked her if she was using her master, and the principal didn't deny it. Instead, she says they are using each other. The hag then warns Himeji of the impending dangers Hiroto will face the more he gathers the stars, but Himeji informs her that she'll stay by Hiroto's side. Later that night, Hiroto overhears his maid practicing her lines as a new transfer student to his class. The following day, she recites it perfectly and beams a smile that'll lighten my day at him. The homeroom teacher informs her students of the upcoming trial battle tournament. She explains the rules that rank does not matter, and it doesn't involve losing and gaining stars. However, if defeated, the person is out of the tourney. She explains further that the winner of the tourney will be selected to participate in the inter-academy contest happening in the following month. This bitch wastes screen time and says that it's not only the winner that'll be selected, but the top 5 students. They'll get a reward for winning. Hiroto stares at Himeji while the teacher rambles on. During lunch break, he hands her a snack and watches her nibble it quickly like a rat. Himeji then says to him how difficult the test trial tourney is. She calls it a disadvantageous situation because he cannot reject a trial request due to the system's auto-accept rule. Then, while engaging an opponent, he cannot call for assistance. Failure to battle an opponent after 24 hours will result in being eliminated from the tourney. Hiroto sees how much the odds are against him, so he suggests pulling a JoJo move as a good option. Suddenly, a cute girl shows up in front of them and introduces herself as Noah. Hiroto learns from her that she is in her 3rd year. The assertive senior questions Hiroto and Himeji if they're dating, and once she learns that they are not, she latches on to the poor boy like a leech. At first, the loser was enjoying her comfort, but after getting pinched by his maid, he corrects his stance and asks Noah for her goal. Noah in turn explains that she heard that he is the most popular in the school, while she isn't up to him. Noticing his disinterest in the popularity poll conversation, she bids him farewell and leaves. Immediately, Himeji warns him about Noah and explains that she is known as the Little Devil. She says that Noah is one of the 3 students who have attained 6 stars in their school, so she warns Hiroto about the bad vibes she's getting from her. Not long after, she asks Hiroto if Noah is the kind of girl he is into while pouting. Hiroto goes to the principal's office, and she informs him of how troublesome it was for her to transfer Himeji to his school. It wouldn't have happened if he didn't expose her during his match against Kugasaki. Sensing the kind of woman his principal is, he asks her what she wants from him in return, and she explains that some people have started poking their noses in the upcoming trial battle. A second of her problems is that a special star, which is the green-colored one, has been stolen. She planned to reward the winner of the trial battle with it. Hiroto has been tasked to sniff out the culprit while he partakes in the upcoming event. She believes that the person will come for him. The following week, when the battle begins, the students go around chasing after Hiroto, but thanks to his maid who manages to take him into hiding, he ends up escaping. After stalling for days, the bug program they've been using to escape being challenged gets overridden. Immediately, Noah chats Hiroto up, requesting to face him. Upon getting home, Himeji contacts the head of her technological research, and she shows up at their home. The bitch shows up looking all scruffy. After some bit of fan service, she explains to Hiroto that she has come up with a new method of helping him avoid being challenged. The method requires redirecting all the requests to Snow White's phone, buying him some time while she battles in his stead. He worriedly asks her if it's okay, and of course, the already smitten with love maid agrees to do anything for her master. The following day, he watches as his maid whoops some students in the battle trials. After reassuring himself that he has nothing to worry about, he runs into a maze to escape the students. But as the plot had always intended, Noah finds him and they end up colliding. This results in a questionable position that can land any man in prison if spotted publicly. Before the other students can spot them, Hiroto forces himself off Noah, and Himeji rushes to the vicinity just in time to save him from being battled. He ends up putting a trial battle against his maid so that others can't choose him. Later that evening, after school, Himeji prepares a good meal for her master, but she doesn't find sauce, so she goes out to get one from a nearby store. On the way, she is jumped by Noah. Hiroto, already guessing how the plot would play out, gets a call from Noah. The shameless bitch of a senior has his beloved maid on hold. Himeji is then forced into a conflict position with her master. She tells Hiroto that she won't be losing against him in their upcoming match. At Hiroto's place, he discusses Himeji's situation with Rina, pissing off the hot-tempered bitch. Hiroto tries to calm her down and explains that Rina might not be the only person involved. Suddenly, a sleepy Kagaya walks in, and it serves as the perfect timing for Hiroto. In a few minutes, he has briefed her on what happened, so she tries coming up with countermeasures to help him against his upcoming battle with his maid. She informs him about the game that Himeji chose to play against him, the Scalance Love Triangle. Rina decides to join them as they rack their brains on the best cards to play against Himeji. As Kagaya scurries off like a rat into a room in Hiroto's mansion, Hiroto worries about why Himeji asks him not to try to win against her. Later that night, Rina shares a room with Hiroto. Before lying on her bed, she starts yapping like a bitch, giving various reasons as to why she is in that position. Due to the info dump, Hiroto agrees with her without trying to start an argument. Eventually, the two of them couldn't sleep, so they ended up talking for a while. Rina hands him a special item that she believes can play as good luck on the liar's hands. At that same time in Noah's room, Noah recalls what Hiroto said when addressing the students on his first day, and vows to win against the imposter. The following day after school, Hiroto and Himeji walk towards the venue where they'll have their match. On the way, the busybody of a student spots them and offers to watch their match. In a few minutes, the three of them are in an empty classroom. Before the game begins, Himeji promises not to lose against Hiroto because he is him. The game involves both sides having a set of cards, whereby they go against each other based on the rankings. As Himeji starts, she uses an ability called Forced Hand. The ability makes her draw forth a lower rank card of her opponent against her. When she does this, she wins the round and collects his card. As time went on, Hiroto suspects something is off in the game. Immediately, he realizes that Himeji isn't playing to win against him, so he asks Kagaya not to assist him while he faces her. Time continues to pass, and Hiroto loses intentionally to Himeji. Noah, who watches their match, starts getting agitated. When there are a few cards left for Hiroto, he plays a special card that has a special rule. Due to the event not being activated, he is left with only one card. Hiroto then plays his final card and tries bluffing to Himeji. She responds well that it almost seems that they are communicating with each other with just their eyes. After she plays her trump card, she takes all of Hiroto's cards. But just as it looks like Hiroto has lost, the special card he played earlier activated, so he gets half of all her cards. Now, they are back to square one, but the time of the event runs out, so they tie the match. Destroying the expectation of his senpai, Noah tries walking off, but Hiroto grabs her. As they spoke, the truth gets revealed about how the bitch planted spyware on Himeji's phone. If Himeji had lost the battle, the spyware would jump to Hiroto's phone, and that would be a huge problem. As the duo tries to make the senpai fess up, she assures them that she isn't coping and she has an ace up her sleeve. Noah gets mad at Hiroto for stealing away her spotlight. She then insists that she has made a deal with the devil. Immediately, she restrains Maid-sama and has Hiroto in a bind. Noah vows to leak the fact that he is a phony to the entire school if he doesn't play a game with her. He wonders how she's able to come across such information, so he suspects the Green Star to have a play at it. Noah, on the other hand, asks them to do a real battle that involves betting stars, not some fake-ass trial. He has no choice but to challenge her. Due to her behavior, his suspicion is confirmed that there's a higher power playing a role in her case, but he wonders who he'll pick to help. His maid or Noah. I'll be very blunt with you guys. This tabletop treasure hunt game Noah and Hiroto will be playing has to be one of the most complicated games to put to words, but I'll try and dumb it down. That same night after Hiroto accepts to play Nao's game, they are in the school building. Hiroto notes that he doesn't understand the basic rules of the game, so why should I? Noah phones him and asks him about where his partner is hiding. She quickly tells the liar that if he lies, he'll end up forfeiting the game. He tells her that his partner isn't on any of the floors she asked. The rule is that the finders move 3 spaces while looking for their opponent's partners. Due to Hiroto not grasping the rules, Noah takes it easy on him, so she moves by 1 space. The spaces they move are represented as classrooms across the hallways. Since there are 6 total floors, they'll end up walking for a while. The bitch Noah lies about taking it easy on him, but instead confesses to having an ability called double action. An ability that lets her take 2 turns in a row. She asks him the same question, but this time she uses it to map the floor his partner is on. She'll end up moving 6 paces, giving her the edge over him. Immediately, Hiroto activates his skill and contacts Rina, who happens to be his partner in hiding. She tells him how cold the room happens to be, and this becomes a piece of vital information in this episode. They go over the rules and explain that there are 4 commands throughout the game: question, move, answer, and retreat. The question and move are the ones Noah used to earlier, while the answer command is the one used when the finders know where the treasures are hidden. To use answer, the player has to be in front of the classroom where the treasure is hidden. Each player has 3 points, which means that they can only get the answers wrong 2 times. The reset command allows the player to move his partner around freely, but each usage costs a point. Hiroto notes that Noah's double action ability is a move that is made to pressure him into using up all his points. Rina confirms that the ability is illegal, and Noah must have gotten it from the guy behind the curtains. Rina wonders what Hiroto's plan is, since he cannot win nor lose the game, but the pathetic liar tells her that he has thought of something, resulting in her wasting screen time glazing him. She then informs him that he cannot beat Noah fairly, but the scumbag of a boy replies to his partner that he'll make Noah regret trying to beat him at cheating. As the match continues, Hiroto asks Kagaya for help, but she says Noah must have used a barrier ability that prevents external people from interfering. She then comes up with models, but she says they'll be useless since she can't help. Immediately, Hiroto gasses Rina and has Kagaya instruct her. Within 10 minutes, Rina has used up her brain cells, but she ends up being able to pinpoint Himeji's position. Immediately, Hiroto asks her for the exact room where Himeji is, and just as the rules of the game imply, Noah affirms his guess. She then asks him if he is cheating, but he speaks in a roundabout way. Hiroto moves and he is only 2 rooms away from Himeji. Noah, in turn, guesses correctly where Rina is, but she uses a point to move Himeji away. Rina, who happened to be tracking Himeji's line, notices that she has turned off her device. Himeji steps out of her room as ordered and sees her master outside. She speaks to him casually, and he realizes that it is not against the rule, so far as one isn't leaking the game's content. Immediately, he tells her it'll get cold after 10 p.m., so she should try and keep the room she is in warm. After realizing it's past 8, Hiroto notes that it'll take a long time for him to be able to win the game. Hiroto comes up with a different plan after realizing that Noah has been predicting his moves perfectly. He believes that it must be the work of the green star. Within seconds, he finds the loop in her future sight and decides to use it against her. As time went on, he continued guessing correctly, frustrating the little devil. She in turn guesses the Rina is correct. As the time got closer to 9 p.m., Hiroto brings out the big guns. He firstly wastes turns to buy time till it's past 9. Then he heads towards Himeji. Noah had no choice but to pull Himeji away, so the girl went to a different room. He and Noah use their second points, so they are left with only one more. Noah tries taunting him, and he decides to waste time till it is 10 p.m. After that, he predicts Himeji's room without having Noah answer. She wonders the kind of sorcery he used, so like an anime villain, he explains how he was able to pull it off. He then confesses to his partner being in the staff room. In one move, Hiroto gets to Himeji's door and uses the answer point. He finds her there. To their surprise, Noah laughs at them and pulls out a move out of her ass. Her third hidden ability is Alter Fate. She uses the ability to make sure that Hiroto's question is never answered. She then walks to the staff room and sees Rina winning the game, or so she thought. After speaking to Rina for a few minutes, Hiroto arrives in the class and pulls a Katagiri Yuichi move. He explains that the ability he used is called a pinch hitter. He can transfer ownership of the player, so he makes Himeji the person Noah beat. This results in the spyware transferring to Noah's phone. Immediately, the bitch sandals are cut, and she starts confessing about all the effort she put in, and Hiroto ruined everything. She explains that she made a deal with the headmaster of Seijo Academy, Kurahashi Mikado. He advised her, a schoolgirl, to cheat to get stars from Hiroto. She starts bawling her eyes as she asks them to forget about her. She then apologizes for hurting Hiroto's maid, but to her surprise, he walks up to her and puts on her shoe. He then tells her to believe in him since no devil is a match for him. At Kurahashi's office, he scolds Nao for losing to a grunt like Hiroto. He calls her useless for making him waste his precious materials on someone like her. He then decides to make her his slave. As she is frightened of being called that, she reveals her intention and makes fun of him. Immediately, his door slams open, and Hinoto walks in with a drone. There's a saying that speaks of the devil, and he'll appear. This scumbag live streams the event in the man's office to the entire island. Within minutes, there were over 100 of thousands of viewers. The act gets the scum of a headmaster fired and fined. The following day, the sly fox makes an announcement to her following students. She makes sure not to avoid the detail that she celebrated the loss of her fellow headmaster. After goading for some time, she gets down to business, informing the students that they are left with 2 participants for the trial tourney. Hiroto and Noah step up. Noah then interrupts her speech and says she'd like to forfeit. As she becomes emotional, Hiroto snatches the spotlight from her and makes her a good person in front of everyone. To their surprise, he forfeits the match and says there's no reason to it. After all, he's the strongest. The last person I heard this line from got cut in half in chapter 236. The principal smiles at the outcome, and she starts predicting the upcoming inter-academy battle to be eventful. Since there isn't any need for a public demonstration, she calls out the names of the top 5 candidates. Of course, our best girl, Snow White Himeji, is one of them. Then we've got some people like a Blondie and the student council president. Together with the fraudulent one and Madame Twintails, they make up 5. On a day off, Hiroto meets up with Rina in their disguises. They talk about Noah being the winner. He says he got the green star from her. Now our MC is starting to look like he wants to join the Rainbow Coalition. Rina takes him to a shop that allows couples only. Before Hiroto can ask what's going on, she begins with her info dump, and he accepts her request. Inside the ability shop, the owner, who happens to look like a toned-down goth girl, sees Rina and calls her Lily. It shows that Rina has been hiding her true name from people. She sees Hiroto and believes him to be her boyfriend. But as she notices the tension between the two, she asks them to hold hands. Maybe it's because of their culture, but I'd grab her hands like it's no big deal. She starts fretting like they have to be in sync, like some couples out of a slice-of-life double panel. These fools end up shaking each other. The scene was so hilarious that it made the shop owner laugh. She then decides to give them a pass. They then browse through the shop and see a lot of ability cards. After their date, they return to the mansion to meet an angry maid. You do not want to know how an upset maid behaves. Himeji mixes her gratitude and anger. She demands Rina to take a bath with Hiroto and to put on a swimsuit. Despite the logical arguments the two put up, they could not outwit the angry maid. Minutes later, Hiroto has a soak in the bathtub, and the girls join him in their swimsuits. He ends up passing out due to thinking he is in paradise. The following day, at school, Himeji, Noah, and Hiroto head to a meeting regarding the inter-academy battle. In the meeting room, they meet the remaining two participants arguing. Himeji plays a promotional video of the battle, and they learn that it is a large-scale game that involves 100 students. To dumb it down, it is a capture the flag kind of game. The rules get so intense that one would think we are watching the classroom of the elite. The key points are areas, player positions, and movement values. The movement value is categorized from 1 to 25. The lower the number, the better. On Hiroto's phone, his movement value is shown to be 3, when in reality, it is 19. As the students start to pick the positions they'll want to be, Hiroto opts to go for the commander, but the student council president opts in for that same role. He then debates logically as to why he should be the commander. His childhood friend starts rambling about wanting Hiroto to take the role since she doesn't want to follow his orders. Hiroto realizes the mess he is in, so he offers a trade with Shinji, the student council president. He tells Shinji to let him take the role of the commander, and if he doesn't fulfill his duty properly, he can sub him out. Shinji then gives him a harsh condition that if he takes out 3 of their enemies' bases in the first 3 days, then he'll let him continue as the commander. Himeji sees it as something unfair to her master, so she speculates that he can choose not to cooperate. The cool-looking, Evangelion name-sharing MC president reminds her of his duty as the school student leader and how he wants to use Hiroto to get to the top. Later that night, Rina phones Hiroto. She complains about being in trouble. When he asks her what's wrong, she tells him that there's a third Sarasa that is present, shocking the mofo of an MC. At Hiroto's place, he and Rina watch a video of the fake Sarasa asking Rina to face Hiroto in the upcoming inter-academy battle. She says whoever wins against him gets to keep the name Sarasa, but if she refuses, she might as well strip on live, causing trouble for the red-haired minor and the true Sarasa she's trying to protect. Immediately, Rina gets pissed, but Hiroto calms her down. He suspects the scumbag who got fired recently to be behind the case. After Rina leaves, the shameless good-for-nothing liar kowtows in front of Kagaya, pleading for her to show him mercy by defeating his arch-nemesis, Kurahashi. With Himeji around, the 3 of them go about explaining a strategy best suited for Hiroto. Later that night, Hiroto and Rina speak on the phone, and the bitch nearly fesses up on desperately wishing to see him. Like a Chad, he asks her not to lose. After ending her call, he calls someone else. The following day, they are moved to District 0 and shown their base. Like a Chad, Hiroto analyzes the timer and everything it takes to claim an area. Even Shinji had to admit that Hiroto isn't all talk. When it's time for them to capture the flag, scratch that. To expand their area, Shinji advises them to move east. The team members decide to try out spells to acquire. Shinji, on the other hand, is threatened by Nanas, his childhood friend, but he manages to pull through with the power of love. As for Himeji, she does something cute by using concealing magic and covering Hiroto's eyes from behind. At the end of the first day, Rina's school took first place when it came to capturing bases, but most votes went to Hiroto's school. Later that night, Hiroto and his comrades dine in a top-notch hotel. Suddenly, the otaku-dressed loser, Kugasaki, shows up looking smug. Bro thinks he's some 1970 Bruce Wayne. He tells Hiroto and his goons that his team will crush their schools. After the NEET leaves, Himeji tells her team to be wary of Kugasaki's team. She also mentions some other ones to watch out for, but if they are important, we'll get to see them soon. One of them involves a hottie who carries a wooden bokuto like Gintoki. She's said to be a one-shot queen. Fortunately for them, she stands at their table and addresses Hiroto. She tells him that if they meet on the battlefield, she'll win. Himeji then informs Hiroto of Sarasa's imposter and how they should watch out for him the most. After the team finish their meal, they try to decide on how they'll share their rooms. Naturally, it'd have been Hiroto and his maid, but the nosy Noah tries to one-up her. As for Nanase and Shinji, the two go at it like cats and rats. Thanks to Rina's contribution, she separates them by gender. Later that night, Hiroto wakes up to have his bath. On his way, he notices a pipsqueak trying to get an item, so he helps her. As she thanks him, he notices her to be very cautious. As he speaks with her, he realizes that she is a participant in another event that is happening simultaneously with theirs. Due to being a grade schooler, he hangs out with her before carrying her back to her room. After seeing that she eats mostly junk, he decides to get her dinner. On the second day, Hiroto's party is approached by another party, requesting an alliance. As the leader speaks, Nanase notices something and attacks him out of the blue. Because of her actions, Shinji supports her, and the rest of the team has no choice but to join them. After the day's work of stress, Shinji attacks Nanase verbally and doesn't give her time to breathe. As Blondie tries to give a reason, he upsets her, so she yells at him and runs off. At the end of the day, Shinji gets villainized. Hiroto then notices that his teammates will be the end of him. At the start of the episode, some fodders get eliminated by their supposed teammate. Alas, it was Dio all along. I mean the Sarasa imposter. She then speaks to the camera and has it broadcast. On the third day, Himeji shows her teammate the viral video, and they realize it's what made everyone tense. They realize that the imposter can also transform into any of them. Immediately, Hiroto advises that they should move in pairs and not leave any of their members' sight. Shinji agrees with him, but he wonders if Nanase won't act on impulse like she mostly does. Later that night, Hiroto hangs out with his little friend and watches as she plays a game. He then realizes that she doesn't want to touch grass. She's growing up to be a shut-in, but she's cool with him. As she leans on him, she falls asleep. After the loser leaves her room, he goes to Rina's door. Immediately she realizes he is the one. She spends 5 minutes preparing herself and the room for him. Within that time frame, my tap coin score could have gone far. As soon as he enters, she tells him not to look around much, and then she starts acting shy. After teasing Rina for a bit, Hiroto gets down to business. He explains that her imposter has started to complicate things. She agrees with him that the rising popularity of the bitch has led people to start suspecting their teammates. She believes that teams will start to break apart due to internal striving. Hiroto then explains to her that he needs to conquer 2 bases the following day. He says if he doesn't, he'll lose his position as a commander. Rina realizes how harsh the condition is, so she hopes he'll be okay, but to her surprise, he says he has a plan that can earn his school the top spot. He then briefs her on it. The following day, Sarasa's imposter takes out more teams and continues to act solo. As for Hiroto's team, they have a problem with Shinji and Nanase. These two keep arguing back and forth, disrupting the flow of the team. Suddenly, a blackout happens, and Shinji asks Nanase personal questions about him to confirm if she isn't the imposter. The girl in return doesn't answer him since she also suspects him. Fortunately for them, they are saved by the bell. During the break, Nanase yells at Shinji and decides that she won't participate in the afternoon session. Shinji, in turn, decides to cool his head, and in the process, he forfeits the bet he has with Hiroto before leaving them. During the afternoon session, Hiroto's team is without Shinji and Nanase. As he advises them to prepare to fight as planned, Kagaya informs him that he has been ambushed. Immediately, he informs them of 2 teams approaching them from the north and the south. As the girls begin to worry, they still manage to talk about their positions in Hiroto's life. Hiroto then informs them that it might be the best time to use his secret plan. To his dismay, he realizes that one of his opponents is Miss Gintoki's team. After apologizing to her that his team isn't at his full power to face her head-on, she confesses to him that he was the one who broke the team. Immediately, the maid and Twin Tails charge at the fodders, leaving their commander to take on the powerful girls. At first, the swordswoman thinks Hiroto has gone senile, but when she sees him pulling out moves from his ass, she tightens up. She ends up losing one of her members, and then she realizes that Himeji was with Hiroto all along. Immediately, she releases her sword technique that can blitz the liar, but Himeji uses a barrier spell to parry it. In the process, she loses most of her health bar. Immediately, the coward runs off with his white maid, and she asks him to trust her, as if he has any choice. As soon as Himeji stops running, she makes herself open for the sword attack. As the Tsuyuri leader fires a shockwave at her, Himeji does a perfect parry like Ken from Street Fighter and repels it on one of her opponents. She then calls it numerical adjustment. Not gonna lie, that move looked just like pressing the left bumper while playing Sekiro. As the battle went on, Team Tsuyuri lost 3 members thanks to the surprise attacks pulled by Hiroto's team. When Hiroto starts acting like he has the upper hand, Madame Samurai informs him that he has used 35 counterattack spells. This bitch has been cramming his moveset like he's some mini-boss from Dark Souls. As soon as Himeji tries to help out, she gets tied up by a magical snake, and it'll make her immobile for a minute. Hiroto then believes that she wouldn't be able to use her one-shot move on him, since she lacks her teammate. To his surprise, she explains to him that she placed a binding vow, placed a limiter on herself to make it that way, but in reality, she's at her strongest when she's alone. She then eliminates her teammate to rewrite the ability. This bitch pulls out a Mifune Awakening move in Storm 4 at Hiroto, but since he's the MC, bro is saved by convenient writing. Hiroto then prepares to end the bitch after revealing his ability, but Sika. She shows her trump card, and it prevents him from being able to pull off any move. She then retreats. Himeji, who is now free, informs her master that their opponent must have had a good reason not to try finishing him. Noah then returns after whooping the fodders she chased after earlier, but Hiroto notices that their base didn't increase. He then asks the girls to trust him and do as he says. Later that night, Shinji apologizes to Hiroto for not showing up in the afternoon. Hiroto then asks why Shinji asked if Nanase was the imposter earlier. He wondered if Shinji never trusted her, but the president explained that he did it to upset her because she would break down if things went on. He always considered her to be of a pure conscience. He later notices Nanase eavesdropping and meets her to know what she heard so far. The two of them end up arguing, but Hiroto calls Shinji's attention to a video. In it were the people who wanted to ally with their team. They notice one of the members preparing a magic spell to use on them, but thanks to Nanase, they were saved. Shinji then talks to Nanase about it, but as she spoke about doing it to save their asses, she says there isn't a point in it anymore. After all, their team got eliminated. Upon hearing him, Shinji grabs him by the collar and asks him why. We get a scene of Hiroto speaking to the girls and asking them to trust him. He then pulls out a gun and uses it to delete himself from the game. Shinji wonders why he did that, and Hiroto says part of the reason is due to their bet. Another is to help them fight against the imposter and her underlings. He reassures them that everything is going according to plan. Kurahashi sits in his office while he celebrates in advance for the plan he had just cooked up. Hiroto and Sarasa pay a visit to Kazami to brainstorm a strategy to take down the notorious Miss 100 Faces. They make her tell them everything she knows about her. Kazami starts by telling them that Miss 100 Faces is an unauthorized player who isn't affiliated with any academy and should therefore have no right to play the game, but for some reason, she seems to be doing just fine, almost like she has an ally on the Astral Management Committee. Hiroto asks about Libra's position on the matter, and Kazami confesses her deep fears, explaining that engaging in such shady practices jeopardizes the entire Libra organization. Sensing her distress, Sarasa and Hiroto solemnly promise they won't allow Miss 100 Faces to ruin the competition. Despite the strict prohibition on interaction, Hiroto, Sarasa, and Shirayuki arrange a secret rendezvous with Kazami to sneak into the United Army's abilities. During their meeting, they uncover a crucial detail that Kazami's ability significantly benefits all teams allied with her. If she peaks first place, her allied teams automatically secure a tie for second place. It's a game-changing advantage that could turn the tide in their favor. Hiroto realizes that Kururugi must have fled to exploit this very advantage. Sarasa, however, points out the name of Kirigaya Tuya, the infamous holder of the Black Star, and they piece together insights to forge a plan against their formidable adversary. Hiroto comes up with a bold plan to head to MTCG and clear the most difficult route, thereby securing a wild card that'll let him partake in Astral again. As they strategize on his success plan, he is shocked to discover that Shina Tsumuji, the little girl, is the sixth and final assassin he must defeat to clear his path. On the fourth day of the competition, Hiroto strides into the MTCG arena, with Kazami by his side, acting as his familiar. Kazami takes her time to explain the crucial elements of the game to him. She emphasizes the significance of cards, quests, and coins in their quest for victory. Hiroto then understands that he needs to amass a collection of powerful cards to level up Kazami and overcome 5 formidable higher-level opponents before he can even think about facing the elusive sixth assassin. In addition to collecting cards, Hiroto learns that he can exchange his current cards for higher-level ones by paying in coins. This adds an extra layer of strategy to his game plan. On top of all this, Hiroto also has the option to purchase skill cards directly on his device, giving him even more tools to prepare for the battles ahead. With determination like Conqueror's Haki, Hiroto dives into the competition. He navigates the intricacies of the MTCG, balancing the collection and exchange of cards with the strategic use of quests and coins. All the while, he keeps his ultimate goal of winning against Shina in sight. Proceeding with the competition, Hiroto wanders about with Kazami. Then a member of Tsuyuri's team suddenly approaches him, offering him 4 cards in exchange for 100 coins. She confides her disillusionment with aligning with Miss Hundred Faces due to Kururugi's maneuvers. Hiroto reassures her of his dedication to thwarting Miss Hundred Faces. With cards in hand and renewed determination, Hiroto dives into his first battle against a formidable level 6 opponent. Using his strategic insight, Hiroto secures a surprising victory by predicting his opponent's card strengths. Reflecting on his win, Hiroto realizes the importance of acquiring more coins to speed through MTCG. It's a whirlwind of alliances, rivalries, and strategic maneuvers in the unpredictable arena of MTCG. Hiroto faces challenges on and off the battlefield, navigating a complex web of cards, quests, and alliances with his trademark. Hiroto decides to swap out a number card for a reward card, surprising everybody present. But this wasn't just any swap. The disparity between the cards was so enormous, it came with a whopping 99,000 coins. With this massive advantage, Hiroto bulldozes his way through his opponents like a hot knife through butter. Eventually, he encounters Tatara and Tsuji, who generously offer to trade their 2 9-number cards to help him achieve his ambitious goal. This trade boosts him to level 27. Shortly after, Kagaya rings in and tells him that she can't crack Tsumutsumu's personal data. She then demands that he squeeze it out of her somehow. Meanwhile, Yukawa reaches the elusive 6th assassin and tries to go up against her. But even though Yukawa is a formidable level 33, she trashes him even faster than a hiccup. After publicly humiliating Yukawa, Shina beckons for Hiroto to come against her next. Just in the nick of time, Hiroto cracks the mystery that Shina is deploying a negative 99 familiars, ensuring she's always just a bit lower than any player daring to face her. Immediately as he confirms it, Hiroto relays this piece of news to Kagaya, who is connected to his listening device. In a brilliant stroke, Hiroto whips out his Exceed Limit card, bumping his level up to 30. Then, with a flourish, Hiroto reveals Kagaya's crafty move, in which she had hacked Shina's level to match his at 30. This clever maneuver makes him win the battle, earning him the wildcard entry to rejoin the Astral game. Buoyed by his success, Hiroto decides to throw down the gauntlet and confronts Shina's true identity. He asks her if she's really Miss Hundred Faces, and she confirms his suspicion. She then smiles and tells him she's glad he won, so he can finally compete against her in an official game during the Astral tournament. Seizing the thrill, Hiroto decides to announce his victory and his participation in the Astral tournament to all the players, as he returns to regroup with his teammates. Learning about the return of the Academy's strongest to the game, a good number of the players make a truce agreement, requesting to join an alliance with his Academy. Hiroto makes it back to Astral just in time, after retrieving the wildcard from MTCG. Seeing him return, Kurahashi Mikado gets pissed and calls him a sneaky little bastard as he watches from his office. He then convinces himself that he still has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, enough to completely get rid of Hiroto and his academy. During a spirited discussion about stratification and team allegiances, Hiroto and his comrades tally up the squads not yet under the thumb of Miss Hundredface and compare those to the unfortunate few already in her grasp. Hiroto also spills the beans about the shady shenanigans of the previous Seisho headmaster, Kurahashi, who didn't exactly play fair and square, using tricky and unfair methods to get ahead. Despite Kurahashi's monstrous 999 health points, Hiroto remains optimistic, suggesting that the formidable demon maiden, Kururugi, might still have what it takes to topple her. He tells them that if they can manage to defeat Kuruguji, then they might be able to convince her to help them with their plan. In a strategic analogy, the team comes up with a plan to take down Kururugi, where Hiroto suggests that they cut through their area and reach the area of their ally, Umi Academy. He adds that if they can just get the academy to give them one of their bases, then they'll be able to override it as Aime's area, giving them an advantage. But the main problem remains how they'll get to Umi without being stopped by their enemies, so Hiroto comes up with a plan for some of them to act as decoys to draw the enemies away, while Enomoto and Akizuki use the opportunity to get to Umi's territory. As they press forward, our decoys are rudely outnumbered by another team, complete with the infamous Kuruguji in their midst. The strange team members take advantage of their numbers and charge to attack at once. But members of the Umi team suddenly appear and back up Hiroto and his comrades. Taking charge of the momentum, Nanase swiftly takes out two of their adversaries, while Kuruguji, who has been put on a magical bond, watches. Finding out that they no longer have a chance of winning, one of the team members releases Kuruguji's bond. Kuruguji then easily takes out some of the members of Umi Academy and strongly declares that her main priority is to bury Hiroto while she charges at him. Not wanting to take that kind of slander against her friend, Nanase charges to clash with her in Hiroto's stead. Nanase, ever the action hero, charges headlong at Kururugi, who meets the assault with a devastating slash. Just in the nick of time, Enomoto arrives and steps in, deflecting Kurugugi's attack and putting a stop to any further mischief from her. Seeing him as an unimportant pest of a side character, Kururugi tries to send Enomoto to hell, but is again interrupted by Nanase, who humbles her adequately. Hiroto and the others then take out all their opponents, leaving Kuruguji, who is a key element of their master plan to pass. Hiroto takes a moment to chat with her about her teammates' feelings, making a heartfelt pitch for her help. Meanwhile, the ever-crafty Sarasa is playing a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek to avoid her opponents after her team gets wiped out. Kugasaki and Kirigaya, on the other hand, walk nonchalantly across the battlefield with Minami Shizuku, while they blab about how weak all their opponents have been so far. They want to stir the game up, so they suggest going up against the well-known LMA Academy. Their overconfidence meets its match when they suddenly come face-to-face with the determined warriors of Aime Academy. What follows is an epic clash of titans, filled with enough sparks and fireworks to rival a summer festival. Just then, Kirigaya uses a compound upgrade and combines a magic blast and sword flash, generating a huge magic blade. Enomoto then steps up to him, drawing his sword and admonishing Hiroto to work out his magic while he buys them time. Nanase equally clashes with Shizuku, who proves to be a huge pain in the ass for her. In support, Hiroto uses a stealth technique to knock out her lights, leaving them with Kugasaki and Kirigaya. Kirigaya decides to step up his game, so he draws a pair of swords and makes short work of Enomoto and Nanase, sending them to the dustbin easily. Akizuki, undeterred, steps up to face Kirigaya, but soon finds herself on the receiving end of an elimination as well. However, in her last act of defiance, she manages to trap Kirigaya in a paralyzing ability, leaving him momentarily immobilized. Kirigaya, not one to be easily restrained, blasts his way out of the trap and conjures a force field around himself to ward off any further attacks. A sudden ray of light pierces through the force field, revealing Kugasaki the mastermind behind the assault. Kirigaya calls Kugasaki an asshole for betraying him, but he just laughs and dramatically proclaims his undying loyalty to the Empress. He vows to vanquish the so-called fake Empress and all her people, making Kirigaya wonder why he didn't see through him initially. With a flourish, Kugasaki strikes down Kirigaya. Before disappearing, Kirigaya uses his final breath to unleash a desperate attack aimed at Hiroto, but in a twist of fate, Shirayuki heroically leaps in front of him, taking the hit. With a dramatic flair worthy of a blockbuster, Shirayuki gets eliminated, leaving Hiroto both grateful and determined. Kugasaki, in a dramatic and rather theatrical gesture, entrusts the fate of his beloved empress to none other than Hiroto. He then decides that since his betrayal has been exposed, and he has also withdrawn from the United Army, he might as well just eliminate himself. Before Hiroto can stop him, he brings out a weapon and eliminates himself. Meanwhile, Sarasa finds herself in a tense showdown with her doppelganger. Despite her best efforts and a valiant struggle, she is quickly overpowered and falls after a couple of swift and precise attacks. Just when it seems all hope is lost, Kuroguchi makes a grand entrance, leaping into the fray with a flourish and using her powerful one-shot kill against the doppelganger. However, as the dust settles, the doppelganger emerges unscathed, much to everyone's horror. She then easily eliminates Kururugi, the demon maiden, with a weapon and starts advancing slowly towards Sarasa. Just as the doppelganger is about to deliver the final decisive blow to Sarasa, the bell rings, signaling the end of the period and saving her at the very last possible moment. It's as if the universe hit the pause button right at the climax of an epic action movie. Sarasa had already lost all hope. Hiroto meets up with Sarasa for a critical strategy session, knowing that their next steps could determine either their success or their failure. He asks Sarasa to hide and stay safe, while he gathers with the rest of their teammates to devise a new and intricate plan. After much discussion, the team decides that their best chance of defeating Miss Hundred Faces is to engage in a clever game within Astral. On his way back from the meeting, Hiroto unexpectedly runs into Sheena, who enthusiastically drags him off for an impromptu video game session. She behaves as if their rivalry is a distant memory, completely unfazed by the tension between them. Hiroto finds himself wondering if she could really be the infamous Miss Hundred Faces or just an exceptionally chill gamer. He asks her how a child like her got involved in the whole chivalry, and she casually replies that since she's not a fan of school, she mostly stays home playing games and doing other computer stuff. She adds that she got into middle school and thought she'd be done with mandatory education soon and wouldn't have time to go to school anymore, but then realized that if she doesn't get into high school, she won't be able to play the star-catching game. Continuing with her story, she further explains that since she didn't want to miss out on the star-catching game, she modified her device and force-installed a special program, making her bypass the academy requirement. That level of intelligence coming from a kid makes Hiroto feel like a dimwit. As they play, Sheena nonchalantly talks about the mysterious help she received from someone named Mikado, who instructed her to join his group. She casually adds that he had given her a star, which encompasses the ability to make perfect copies of things, in exchange for agreeing to send the declaration of war to Hiroto and the Empress. The whole situation feels surreal to Hiroto. Despite the whirlwind of events and high stakes, he ends up tucking Sheena into bed, almost like an older brother looking out for his little sister, before finally heading out. The final day of Astral dawns, bringing with it a sense of anticipation and excitement. Hiroto and Sarasa do a careful review of their progress. Every detail is scrutinized as they prepare for the final push. Hiroto then shifts his focus to Sheena, reminding her about the initial challenge she had laid out and the rules she had set, indicating that whoever manages to beat him will be the one to get the Empress title. He also reminds her about the part where she stated that if neither of them can beat him, he'd be declared the winner of the Empress battle, and he gets to decide what happens to the both of them. With a mischievous, villainish smile, he playfully suggests that he could simply win the game by running away, but however, isn't one to chicken away from a fight. To add some excitement, Hiroto proposes a bold change in plans that they should switch things up by playing a different game called Crossboard. Sheena and Sarasa, intrigued by this unexpected twist, agree to the new challenge. Hiroto enthusiastically explains the rules of Crossboard, where the objective is to capture each other's spaces on the board. It's a game that requires strategy, wit, and a bit of luck, perfect for their current situation. Hiroto throws down the gauntlet, challenging both of them to destroy all of Aime's spaces to claim the coveted title of Empress. The match kicks off with strategic maneuvers as the participants utilize their options to either collect, disrupt, or move. Hiroto, ever the cunning strategist, opts to forego conquering their areas and instead focuses on encroach and disrupt tactics. Sarasa, sharp as ever, quickly discerns that a single wrong guess about the core would hand the victory to the opponent. The stakes are high, and the tension is palpable. Suddenly, a peculiar development catches everyone off guard. Shina's territory starts expanding rapidly, swallowing up Uka Academy's spaces, even though she hasn't made a single move. Hiroto's eyes widen as he realizes the sinister mastermind behind this unexpected growth. Trying to pull the strings to lead to his defeat is no one else but Mikado. He is employing corrupt copies to stealthily seize control of Uka Academy's spaces, tipping the balance of the game in their favor. Hiroto recognizes the cunning play at hand. He knows that Kurahashi's underhanded tactics are designed to skew the game, adding an extra layer of challenge to their already complex situation. The match is no longer just about capturing spaces, but is about outsmarting an opponent who plays by their own set of rules, making the final showdown even more thrilling and unpredictable. In a surprising turn of events, numerous spaces suddenly begin to transform into Aime Academy territories. Hiroto grins and reveals that his teammates, Inomoto and Nanase, have been cleverly coordinating their efforts to capture spaces after using a wildcard entry. Their plan is working like a charm, and Aime Academy is gaining ground. Kurahashi, however, is far from pleased with this turn of events. Frustrated by their progress, he decides to summon Kirigaya to deal with the situation. To Kurahashi's dismay, Kirigaya flatly refuses to help, citing a desire to avoid getting into any trouble. It seems even the most formidable players have their limits. Meanwhile, Shina begins to move erratically, her actions reduced to touching zones to claim them as hers. Hiroto's eyes narrow as he realizes that Kurahashi has now taken full control of Shina, turning her into a puppet. Determined to stop this manipulation, Hiroto uses his ability-tracking skills to track down Kurahashi and confront him. With a steely resolve, Hiroto declares he will expose his underhanded tactics to everyone unless he surrenders. As if on cue, Shirayuki suddenly bursts into his office, through the wall, accompanied by a horde of furious players. The scene is chaotic and charged with energy. Faced with this unexpected alliance and the threat of exposure, Kurahashi has no choice but to surrender. Shirayuki steps up and takes command of the board, transforming the entire game board into a sea of green, signaling her complete control. Acknowledging her defeat, Shina admits to feeling guilty about her previous actions. Hiroto, recognizing that it's not his place to pass judgment, chooses to remain silent, offering no criticism or condemnation. At that moment, Kazami appears and gently inquires about Shina's experience throughout the game. Shina tells her that it was an incredible and unforgettable experience. Kazami, pleased with this answer, expresses her happiness and reassures Shina that she doesn't hold her connections with Kurahashi against her. This gets Shina relieved. Meanwhile, Sarasa steps in to capture a few spaces for Uka Academy, ensuring a balance on the board and contributing to the overall harmony of the game. Hiroto then rejoins his group, and together they share a heartfelt reunion. The atmosphere is filled with joy and relief as they celebrate their hard-earned victory. Later on, Hiroto reminisces about how just a single lie changed his entire life.